All right. How are we doing now that it's noon? Um, okay. Are we ready? Everyone ready? Can I get a thumbs up? Can I get a reaction from those of you who are not on camera? Thank you. All right. So, welcome everybody, as Dr. Lynn said, to Fulbright. We're really excited to have you here to learn more about this particular opportunity. Um, we're just going to explore it, tell you a little bit about it, and then we're going to have some time for some questions, answers, thinking about like your specific Fulbright journey. Those of us who are here, we represent nationally competitive scholarships. This is an office at UNG. We have physical offices on Gainesville and Dahlonega, and then we work with students from all the campuses. I will also say that all the students that you see, all the pictures, are from our UNG students who have gone abroad on this award. So before we get started and telling you about the award, let's tell you a little bit about who we are. So I am Dr. Hightower. Obviously, I've cut my hair. I'm the Associate Director of Nationally Competitive Scholarships, and I'm also a professor of history here. I'm in Dahlonega in Barnes Hall. Let me throw it on over to Dr. Lynn. Dr. Lynn, tell us a little bit about who you are, your title, and things like that.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Lynn. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs, and I also serve as Dean of our Honors Program. And I have the privilege of working with everyone on screen here to support students in applying for national awards, undergraduate research awards, things like that. So I get to moonlight as an advisor and talk with you about Fulbright. As everyone here knows, Fulbright's my favorite scholarship. I did a Fulbright to Taiwan many years ago, and it's a pretty amazing one. So we hope you'll consider applying.
Great. Let's go on over to Dr. Patterson.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Patterson. I'm a professor in the biology department. I'm also the assistant director of nationally competitive scholarships. I focus mostly on STEM awards, so you may encounter me in a variety of capacities with Fulbright. I help with the teaching awards as well as the research awards. So nice to meet you.
Great. And Dr. Barron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Barron. Feel free to call me Dr. B. I am full time on the Gainesville campus and I help students across the board, like whether you want to talk about Fulbright, study abroad, or you want to talk about science, undergraduate research opportunities. I help students, again, just with a variety of scholarships and fellowships. And I'm happy to work with you.
Right. So NCS works with a lot of different types of scholarships. Fulbright is just one of them, and it's one that is very near and dear to our hearts. And it's very near and dear to us because it helps us to get to know you as a student, and it helps us to get to know kind of your journey and think more about where you want to go in life. There's one more person that we need to introduce, and it is our special guest, Ms. Tracy Amaya. Tracy, tell us a little bit about you and why you're our special guest.
Hi everyone, my name is Tracy. I am the special guest today. I graduated UNG in December 2024, and I actually just came back from my Fulbright grant in Madrid. I was in Spain for the past year, so I'm really excited to give you guys a little bit more insight of the application process and my experience as a whole.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the scholarship. Like, what is Fulbright? What is it? And how do we work on it? How do we get on it? And then periodically, we're going to be tossing it to Tracy because she has this real experience that is very recent. And we want you to get kind of both the side of like the administration, things like that, but then also what do you do as a Fulbrighter and how does that look? So, here we go. The first question is, do you want to travel the world? Because if you do, Fulbright's for you. All right. It is in 148 countries, give or take, any given year. And there are a lot of awards. These awards are divided in two categories, as you can see here. And it's fully funded, great way to kind of go abroad, teach English, have these experiences, meet new people, and just enjoy kind of being away, going, yeah. being away from the United States and being an American, and it really helps you to think about who you are in many ways. And it helps you to grow. So next up, we have Dr. Barron. Tell us a little bit about that eligibility requirements for Fulbright.
Yes. So to apply for Fulbright, it does require US citizenship, and it is targeted for students who already have their bachelor's degree. So for those of you who are graduating this fall or graduating in the spring or summer of 2027, now is the time to apply. So we want you to get started as soon as possible. For those of you who are interested in applying later, so maybe you're still early in your plan of study, if you're a freshman, sophomore, or junior, then we still want to talk to you. We still want to get you started on your Fulbright journey because it really is a journey. We still want to talk to you because it's better to talk about it sooner rather than later. Um, and depending on where you want to go, sometimes the country requires a specific language that you need to know. So just make sure that you check on the Fulbright website, and that's something we can talk with you about as well. So it depends on. Um, Sometimes it depends on the language requirement. Sometimes it depends on your teaching experience. Not always. Any major, anybody with any sort of experience, but outside of teaching, you can still apply, but you may need that experience. So that's why it's so important to talk with us, so we can lead you through all of those requirements and make sure that you meet them.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Barron. So yeah, there are two types of Fulbright Awards. One of them Teach English and English Teaching Assistantship, and the other one is for study or for research abroad. Study being a master's program, research being doing independent research. We tend to recommend study or the English Teaching Assistantships for students at UNG who are coming out with their bachelor's, just because it's a little easier. It's a little bit, you're more competitive for them in that way. And we just think that oftentimes it really aligns with what you're trying to do. So let's move on over and talk a little bit about the benefits of applying for Fulbright. What does it get you? And we're going to turn it over to Dr. Lynn.
Yeah, so as I said, with the Fulbright, you're going to one of 150 countries. And even though the requirements for the country may be different, we can help you navigate those, the benefits remain the same. So for every country that you're applying to, you do get round trip airfare. And so that's going to get you from your home over to where your workplace is, right? There and back. So for your 1 year commitment. And I say 1 year, but again, depending on the country, it could be 9 months, it could be 13 months. It depends. Again, Fulbright always says it depends is the answer to everything, but that's why we're here, is to help you figure out which it depends is the right one for you. Every country does pay you a monthly stipend. So this is essentially a job, right? It's being paid by the US government. The stipend depends on where you are. So you won't perhaps be making the same stipend in, let's say, a developing East Asian country as you might be in Europe, in Spain, right? But what they try to do is match the stipend to what the local economy looks like. So my general explanation to students is you're going to make enough to live. You definitely have sustenance, and then depending on the country, you may even have a little extra for traveling around, right? So it does depend on where you're choosing to go. And again, that's something we can help navigate. You get accident and sickness benefits. There's 24/7 mental health support. They also have a Fulbright thing that if something were to happen anywhere in the world, you call this hotline, they can come and get you. Again, it's connected to the State Department, right? So they have those resources. There is an online ESL course, so English as a second language course for ETAs, and many of the countries are requiring that now, so they actually pay for you to get an ESL certification. And then finally, there are other possible benefits depending on the country and the award. So for example, South Korea, they have a pretty extended in-country orientation where they take you through language training, right? And many of the countries, especially if it's a country with a lesser taught language, they may give you language training. So, Tracy, since we have you here on the screen, do you want to talk a little bit about your benefits and if there are any things we haven't identified that you got from?
Yeah, of course. To your point, Dr. Lin, Spain also offers a sort of like language course, like stipend. So they gave us about $500 that could cover like a language course in Spain. Really, like, for Spain, you have to have an intermediate level of Spanish, but they really emphasize, trying getting better. What else? Our health insurance was also spectacular. I mean, I think I went to the eye doctor, I went to the optometrist, and then the dentist. Like, really, like our health insurance in Spain was like top tier. It was no complaints there. And then another benefit. I would mention the non-competitive eligibility for federal jobs. So what that basically entails is like, if anyone has, if you're familiar with the applying for federal jobs, it's a tedious process. And you have to go through certain rounds. So being Fulbright, it gives you like sort of a step up that you kind of have to, like, you're able to skip that, like, those hurdles in the beginning. Um, what else? Yeah, I think those were the three that were off the top of my head.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's really interesting. I had no idea that you also got the $500 language stipend for Spain. That's always really interesting and a great way to learn more about like Spain's Spanish versus maybe the other Spanish that we learn or we are taught or we speak. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about like what do you have to do? Okay, fine. This is the benefits. We've kind of sold you on that, I hope. But how do you apply? All right. And for that, we're going to ask Dr. Patterson. Tell us a little bit about how you apply and what those application components look like.
So, I mean, there's several things that you need to sort of pull together. And again, we are here to help you sort of pull all of those things together. But a lot of it's just your background information, so biographical type things, a foreign language form. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this usually includes some sort of evaluation of your language skills. You need three recommendations. We can help you sort of think about who would be appropriate for those recommendations. You need unofficial transcripts, which at UNG you can download from Banner. And then your essays. These are probably the most important thing, and this is where we work with you probably the most. And so you have a statement of grant purpose, and that can be sort of a proposal of what you would like to do in a place for a variety of reasons. Then there's a shorter essay that's about flexibility and adaptability. Often that includes you bringing in some aspect of your previous experience in academics or even outside of academics to demonstrate your flexibility. Sometimes this is, have you visited a foreign country? Was it hard for you to be there? How did you overcome that? All of those different types of things. And then there's a community engagement shorter essay. Um, and that is sort of, I think it's important to remember as you're doing this, you're sort of a representative of the United States in these countries. And so you want to get sort of plugged in to the community of wherever it is that you go. And so we help you sort of think about what that could be. Often it's based upon things that you like to do. If you are into sports or you're into gaming or you're into whatever it is that you like to do independent of the Fulbright, we try to figure out a way to help you sort of plug that into your application and then connect with the community in a particular place. And then the last shortest essay is the impact of the Fulbright award if you were to get it. And so this is you talking about how this would help you on your trajectory in life. You would bring in sort of why you think that the Fulbright is sort of a logical next step for you in your career and, how it sort of fits into your longer story. And so with all of these essays, what we try to do is pull out your story. And so some things that you may think are not particularly interesting, often we hear them and think they're incredibly interesting. And so we try to help pull those things out of you. And ideally what happens is you go through several drafts with us, we sort of bounce them around and you get feedback, and we just go over and over and over again until the submission date, and then you submit something that you are incredibly proud of.
Exactly. And I think that's really important also to note that these are character counts, not word counts. So
Right.
we're looking at maybe under a page or a page for each one of these, right? And so you don't have a lot of space. And that's where we come in to help you kind of make them make sense for who you are and get your experiences and your personality on the page. This is a slightly different type of writing than we usually have you do in an academic setting. But that's why we're here, is to help you with that. So I want to ask Tracy a little bit about, like, what was your experience as an applicant in this process? Now, I know you had slightly different writing requirements, but what was your experience as an applicant? What did you get from the experience, and what did you have to do for it?
Yeah, sure thing. At first it was very daunting. Like you said, it's something that you're not really, familiar with writing, and you really have to sell yourself, right? And my best piece of advice would be start early. Because I had countless drafts. I mean, I was working and I was always sending Dr. Lynn, okay, I tweaked this, we tweaked that. I remember Dr. Lynn, we also like she had me like print out my draft, and then we had to like kind of do like a puzzle of like fitting, moving things around. So the hokey pokey, right? We had to do the hokey pokey with my draft. Um, but I say that to say that, this is a big application, so it might seem really daunting. But the sooner you start, brainstorming and just writing and drafting, come October when you're ready to apply, you really have something that you're 110% proud of. I will say though, I feel like you're never, ever, ever going to think that your application is perfect. I think October 6th, when we were applying, I remember sitting in Dr. Hightower's office, and I stayed there until I felt so bad. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and we were still tweaking things because I really wanted to make sure that I was happy with the product. But what did I get out of it? Oh my goodness, countless experience. I mean, I'm applying to grad school now, so I mean, I have, countless writing materials that I did for Fulbright that I'm now, recycling for my grad applications.
And you got that
Great.
amazing year in Spain too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was in
Also
Spain.
true. Exactly, right? So one of the things that Fulbright and the process of writing these applications does is it's professional development to some extent for you all as you go through this, because it gives you experience with putting your ideas on paper, your life on paper in some cases, and a curated, I guess, set of curated information about you, right? So if you're thinking this, and I mean, I also got a Fulbright at one point, um, and I sat there when people would tell me, and this is what I thought, right? That will never ever be me. And so if you think that that can never be you, they did too. All right. And each one of these students has gone to any number of countries, right? These four are in South Korea, right? Um, they found that space for themselves. They saw themselves in Fulbright, and we were lucky enough and, just lucky enough to help them along. So if you don't think you're what Fulbright wants, I'm here to tell you, you are absolutely what Fulbright wants, because Fulbright wants everyone. They want everyone in terms of majors. You do not have to be an English major in order to go teach English. You can be a business major. You could be a kinesiology major, right? You don't have to know all the languages all the time. There are some places that you can go where there's no language requirement, because they want you talking in English with your students. Sometimes you are a full-time teacher, right? That's what you're doing. Sometimes you're only working for maybe 20 hours a week and you're an assistant, and you're there just to add that sense of authentic Americanness and build that mutual understanding between kind of your students and you as an American. And that ultimately for Fulbright is their mission, is to build mutual understanding through this type of individual person to person diplomacy, right? So if you're ready to get started, that's great. You can book an appointment to meet with any one of us, with Dr. Lynn, Dr. Pattison, with me, and with Dr. Barron. You can find us on social media. You can come visit us. The other thing we're going to be starting is some Fulbright focus workshops here in person in Dahlonega. Those are going to be 2 to 4 on Fridays. If you want more information, just ask in the chat and I'll put that in there. But that ends our formal presentation and what